All right. So, today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Web4 at Home.
Okay.
And you sent me a ton of information on this, so I know you're really interested in this.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating.
And we've got like marketing materials, we've got technical documentation, and we've got
testimonials even.
Yeah, testimonials from people using this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think our goal today should be to really like equip our listener.
All right.
To figure out like, is this something they want to do?
Yeah. Is this for you?
Is this for you? And then if you want to do it, like
how might you?
How might you go about it, and like what are the implications of like self-hosting your own social network?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is like, what is Web4 at Home?
Yeah, what is this thing?
Like, what is this thing?
So Web4 at Home is basically a way for you to host your own social network.
Okay.
Using a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
this is like
it's really about
taking back control of social media.
Yeah, taking control of your data.
Yeah.
Taking control of your platform.
You're not relying on like Stalk or Instagram or
Exactly. And all those algorithms.
Yeah.
That they use to kind of keep you.
Yeah. And all the data mining and stuff. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really about
So it's a very like Web3?
Yeah, very Web3. Very Web4 even.
Yeah.
And it's actually run by a nonprofit organization.
Oh, okay.
Called Linkspreed.
Linkspreed.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So
how does this work?
Yeah, how does this work?
Like, what's involved?
So essentially, you've got a Raspberry Pi that acts as your server.
Okay.
You use Cloudflare for your domain and for secure tunneling.
Okay, so I know Cloudflare's like a...
Yeah, it's a content delivery network.
Yeah, it makes websites load faster.
Yeah, exactly. It makes websites run faster.
Okay.
And then you're going to use things like Apache and PHP.
Okay.
Which are, kind of standard web development tools to make the website function.
Okay.
So the good news is that they've actually provided some really detailed instructions.
Oh, that's great.
In this Web4 at Home documentation.pdf that you sent me.
Okay.
And they walk you through step by step how to set this up.
Awesome.
So you don't have to be a coding expert to get this thing running.
Okay, but I do need to know.
You need some basic computer knowledge, like...
Yeah, just enough to be able to follow along with the instructions.
Like command line stuff?
Not even that much, really.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty user-friendly.
Okay. So I guess, like, what can you actually do with this?
Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah, what can you do?
So the point is...
Besides having your own social network.
Yeah, besides, just having your own little platform.
Yeah.
The real beauty of it is that it's yours.
Okay.
So you decide what data is collected.
Oh.
How it's used.
Okay.
You have complete control over your platform.
So, like, I could make a social network just for my...
Exactly.
Like, book club. Exactly.
There's no, like, data mining?
No data mining?
No algorithms?
None of that.
Oh, cow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not just limited to, like, personal use.
Yeah.
Like, you mentioned book clubs.
Yeah.
Businesses are using it for team communication.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Communities are using it to connect locals.
Oh, wow.
Even entire towns are using it for, like, announcements and things like that.
Oh, that's really cool. So it's like...
It's very versatile.
Yeah, it's like taking the power of social media.
Yeah.
But, like, making it...
Democratizing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Making it your own.
Exactly.
So you're not beholden to these giant companies.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of like...
Yeah.
I'm starting to get excited.
Yeah.
But I also feel like...
I guess
there's got to be some downsides to this.
Of course. Yeah, there are.
Like, this sounds too good to be true.
Right. So...
Like, what are the downsides?
Yeah. So one thing is that it's still relatively early days for Web4 at Home.
Okay.
It's technically in, like, a testing phase.
Oh, okay.
So you might run into some bugs.
Okay, so I might need to do a little...
You might need to do some troubleshooting.
Okay.
But the good news is the team behind it, Linkspreed, they're constantly working on improvements.
Okay, that's good.
But yeah, you should expect...
A little bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, a little bit of a learning curve.
Okay.
And, speaking of Linkspreed, one of the things that you sent over mentioned their social networks as a service model.
Yeah, what is that?
So that's basically their way of making Web4 accessible to a wider audience.
Okay.
So essentially, they can handle the technical stuff for you.
Oh.
So you don't have to worry about setting up the server or managing the security or any of that.
So it's like they take care of the back end and I just...
Yeah. Exactly. You focus on building the community, creating the content.
So they're like a web hosting company, but for social media.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it gives you options.
Okay.
You can either go full DIY with Web4 at home, or you can get some help from Linkspreed.
Okay, but I'm guessing that getting help from Linkspreed isn't free.
Right. It's not free.
Yeah.
But it's worth comparing the cost to the, so-called hidden costs of traditional social media.
Yeah, like all the data they're taking.
Exactly. So, you're not really a user on those platforms. You're the product.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Right.
So at least with this, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, you're in control.
Yeah.
You're in control of your data.
Yeah.
And, it's not just about data privacy.
Yeah.
It's also about being part of a community
Right.
that aligns with your values.
Yeah.
A place where you can connect with like-minded people without feeling like you're being constantly marketed to.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about, kind of what the basics of how it works.
Yeah.
But I think now we need to get into like the nitty-gritty of like, what are the challenges of actually running?
Yeah, what does it actually look like?
Yeah, what are the challenges of actually running your own social network?
Right, and that's what makes Web4 at home so different.
Okay.
It's not just about, joining a platform. It's about taking ownership and responsibility for your online space.
Okay, cool.
So
let's dive into that.
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay, so here we're diving in and talking about like, the actual challenges of running your own social network.
Right. It's not just sunshine and roses, right?
Yeah, like this sounds really cool, but like what am I actually getting myself into?
Well, yeah, think of it this way, like on Facebook or Twitter.
Right.
You just kind of show up, you post your stuff, and you leave.
Yeah, you're just a user.
Right. With Web4 at home, you're like the administrator. You're the moderator.
Oh.
You're sometimes even tech support all rolled into one.
Oh, wow. So it's like...
Yeah, so there's definitely more responsibility involved.
Yeah, so it's like I'm wearing a lot of different hats.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just a user. You're like the architect of your own little online world.
Okay. And so like, what are some of the things I would actually need to handle?
Well, for starters, think about content moderation.
Oh, yeah.
On big platforms, they have like, algorithms and teams of people to deal with spam and harassment and all that stuff.
Right.
With Web4 at home, that's on you.
Oh, wow. So I'm like the...
Yeah, you're the bouncer.
Yeah, I got to make sure...
Got to keep things civil.
That nobody's being...
Exactly. Yeah, so you need to think about things like setting community guidelines.
Oh, right.
And figuring out how to enforce them.
So like...
It's a job.
Yeah, so that sounds like that could be a lot of work.
It can be, especially if your community grows.
Right.
But that's also part of what makes it so unique.
Okay.
Right? You're not beholden to some faceless corporation's rules.
Right.
You get to decide what kind of online environment you want to create.
Yeah, so it's like, it's about setting the tone.
And I get to set the tone.
Okay. And what about the technical side of things?
Right. So you mentioned troubleshooting earlier.
Yeah, like what kind of issues could I actually run into?
Well, even with like the step-by-step instructions, things can go wrong.
Oh.
Like your Raspberry Pi could have a hiccup.
Right.
There might be software updates to install.
Okay.
You could even encounter a security issue that needs addressing.
Like security issue? I thought you said Cloudflare was like protecting everything.
Well, Cloudflare does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Okay.
But it's not foolproof.
Okay.
Think of it like locking your front door.
Yep.
It deters most casual troublemakers.
Right.
But a determined burglar might still find a way in.
Oh, okay.
So staying informed about potential vulnerabilities.
Okay.
And keeping your software up to date is really important.
So it's like ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, there's definitely ongoing maintenance involved.
Okay.
And, it's not just about setting up this cute little network and then forgetting about it.
Right. So this isn't something I can just like set and forget.
No, it requires a certain level of engagement.
Okay.
A willingness to learn and adapt as you go.
Okay.
And, that's not for everyone.
So would you say this is more for people who are already kind of like...
Yeah, I'd say it definitely helps to be at least a little bit tech savvy.
Okay.
But even if you're not a coding whiz,
yeah,
there are tons of resources available online, like forums where people share tips and help each other out.
Oh.
So the Web4 at home community is actually pretty supportive.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to lie, some of this stuff is making me feel a little overwhelmed.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
It's a whole new way of thinking about online interaction.
Right.
But that's also what makes it so exciting.
Okay.
It's like being a pioneer, exploring uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Building something from the ground up.
So, okay, I do really like the idea of like being in control of my own little corner of the internet.
Right.
But, one thing we haven't really talked about is cost. like running my own server and dealing with security and maybe even hiring Linkspreed to help me out.
Yeah.
Like, that's got to add up, right?
Well, it's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
A Raspberry Pi itself is pretty affordable.
Okay.
Think less than a monthly streaming subscription.
Okay, so we're not talking like hundreds of dollars.
No, no, no.
Okay.
And the power it uses is minimal.
Okay.
So you're not going to see a huge spike in your electricity bill.
Okay, so the Raspberry Pi itself isn't too bad.
No, not at all.
Okay. But what about Cloudflare do they charge for their services?
They have different plans.
Okay.
Some are free. Others offer more features and support for a monthly fee.
Okay.
It really depends on the scale of your network and how much hand-holding you need.
So, like, I could potentially get started with Web4 at home without spending any money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The basic setup is surprisingly cost-effective.
Okay.
But as your community grows,
you
might want to consider investing in more robust solutions. Whether that's upgrading your hardware, opting for a paid Cloudflare plan, or even exploring cloud hosting options if your needs get really complex.
Okay, so it's like starting a garden.
Yeah.
Like you can start with a few pots on your balcony.
Exactly.
And then if things start to really flourish.
Yeah, if you need more space.
Yeah, you got to upgrade.
You got to upgrade to a bigger plot of land.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah, and just like with gardening, there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from nurturing something yourself, watching it grow and evolve over time.
Okay, so you're really selling me on this whole DIY internet thing.
It's pretty cool, right?
But I have to ask.
Yeah.
Like with all this effort, all this responsibility.
Yeah.
Is it actually worth it?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, are people actually using this and building successful communities?
The answer, thankfully, is yes.
Okay.
Remember those sources you sent over?
Yeah.
They're full of real-world examples of Web4 at home in action.
Yeah, like there was that town that was using it to connect residents.
Exactly.
And that company that was using it for team collaboration.
Yeah, and it goes beyond that. Like we've got book clubs, gaming communities.
Oh, wow.
Support groups, local activist organizations.
Really?
All using Web4 at home to connect and organize and build their own little corners of the internet.
So it's not just like a theoretical concept. Like people are actually using this.
Yeah, people are using it and it's making a difference in their lives.
Okay, so it's actually like having a positive impact.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so compelling. It's not just about technology.
Yeah.
It's about people using that technology to create something meaningful.
Right.
Something that reflects their values and aspirations.
So it's about building like a better internet.
Exactly. One community at a time.
Okay. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
It's not just about escaping the clutches of big tech.
Right.
It's about creating something new, something better.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. Web4 at home isn't exactly like a household name yet.
Not yet.
So is it really a viable alternative to like the Facebooks and the Instagrams of the world?
That is a great question and one that I think we need to dive into a little bit deeper.
Okay, so can this little Raspberry Pi thing really like, you know, take on the giants of social media?
Well, it's a David and Goliath situation for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, even the biggest empires start small.
Right.
I mean, the internet itself was once a niche network for academics and researchers.
Right, yeah.
So
you're saying Web4 at home could be like the early days of the internet?
Yeah, it's got that kind of like Wild West feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a polished, prepackaged experience like what you get from the big platforms. It's more like a toolbox.
Okay.
Like a set of ingredients.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to kind of create something amazing.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, let's be real. Most people are used to the convenience. And the ease of use of, like, Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, are they really going to ditch those platforms for something that requires more effort?
That's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's a shift in mindset.
Okay.
You know, right now, we're so used to being passive consumers of content.
Right.
Web4 at home is asking us to become active creators.
Yeah.
Curators, caretakers of our own online spaces.
Yeah, so that's a big ask.
It is a big ask.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what's missing
Right.
from the current social media landscape.
Yeah, like that sense of ownership and community.
Yeah, that deeper connection to the communities we're a part of.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
What if this just doesn't catch on?
Right.
What if it stays this like niche thing?
Sure. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Not every innovation becomes a mainstream success.
Right.
But even if Web4 at Home doesn't become the next Facebook, it's still incredibly valuable as a proof of concept, like a demonstration that a different kind of internet is possible.
So it's like a beacon.
Yeah, like a signal flare to the world that we don't have to settle for the status quo.
Right.
That there are alternatives to the data mining centralized platforms that dominate the internet today.
Okay, so like for our listener who's been with us on this journey, they've heard all this stuff now. They've heard the good and the bad. Like, what's the next step for them?
Well, I think the most important thing is to keep exploring.
Okay.
Don't let the information overload paralyze you.
Right.
Go check out the Web4 at Home website.
Okay.
Read some user testimonials.
Yeah.
Maybe even download the documentation.
Okay.
And tinker with a Raspberry Pi if you're feeling adventurous.
So just take some action.
Yeah, even if it's just small steps at first.
Okay.
Dip your toes in the water, see what resonates with you.
Yeah.
Maybe Web4 at Home is the perfect fit for your needs.
Right.
Maybe it sparks an idea for a different kind of online community. Or maybe it just gets you thinking more critically about how you interact with the internet.
I think that's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
It's not about finding the right answer.
Right.
It's about asking the right questions.
Exactly.
Yeah, and just being open to new possibilities.
The internet is constantly evolving, and we have the power to shape that evolution.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It starts with curiosity.
Okay.
Experimentation. A willingness to challenge the status quo.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From like the technical details to the more like philosophical implications of all of this.
Yeah, and hopefully we've equipped our listener with the knowledge and inspiration they need to make their own informed decisions.
So listener, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
Keep building.
And keep building a better online world.
Yeah, the future of the internet is in your hands.